This is the plaintiff, Anthony Owens. He says he rented a share room in a hostel from the defendant, and while he was there, his clothes were stolen. He was a fashion stylist. He had some very expensive articles of clothing and is suing the defendant for the $1,000 he's owed because she didn't provide him with a safe environment. This is the defendant, Ellie. She says she has no idea if anyone stole the plaintiff's clothing because she's not allowed to put cameras where people sleep. She does, however, provide lockers with locks for people to place their things in, if they choose. The plaintiff did not choose to, and she owes him nothing. She's accused of getting hostile at a hostel.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff says he rented a shared room in the defendant's place. His clothes were stolen, and he says it was simply an unsafe environment. But the defendant says she provided lockers with locks, and if the plaintiff didn't choose to store his stuff in a safe place, that's on him. It's the case of get a room, a decent one.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Owens, you are suing the defendant's company for $1,000 in damages because, according to you, stuff was stolen
Yes.
while you were there. Tell me what's going on.
Okay, this is what happened. I moved out. I moved out of an apartment, and I was in between finding a place, and so I found the hostel, and I thought it would be a great temporary spot for me to live. So while I was there, I stayed in two of her places, and one was on Melrose, which had a locker that I could fit my things in. And then the one that I stayed in downtown, they had only a little small locker that you couldn't fit all your stuff in there.
Could you use two
the
lockers?
No, it was only one locker, and the one downtown you had to put your stuff under the bed.
Okay.
So all my clothing was exposed, and someone from the other side could go under to grab your things.
Okay. When did you notice your clothes missing? When you were moving out or
When
after
I
you
started
moved out?
packing.
So were
When
you
I
still
started
there?
packing. No. When I moved and when I went to unpack my stuff, I was like, wait a minute, this is missing, because I have a lot of stuff.
You were in a room with how many people?
There's like 18 to 20 people, and you have one bunk to yourself. You're paying like, the price was crazy, like $1,100.
So why'd you go? So why were you staying
because
there?
I was desperate.
Okay, well, all right. So
desperate.
it provides a service, and the service is short-term housing for people who don't have it and don't want to go to a
Right.
shelter. So you were happy to pay it then, and then so you paid it in Melrose. Then you went to downtown, and according to you, you left your bag underneath the bed, and
Yes.
you find out that items are missing not while you're there
Yes.
and before you leave, but after you are unpacking when you've reached the other place. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so you send an email to her, and what happens?
I sent the email. I never got a response.
And then what happens? Do you ever talk
And
to
then
them or
what
no?
I filed a police report,
When did you file the
filed the
police report?
like probably a week afterwards.
Okay. So what is it that was missing from your bag?
It was 8 pants, J Brand, Banana Republic, Polo, Vineyard Vines, D&G, Lacoste, J. Crew, Robert Graham.
All the big names.
Of course. I used to be a stylist
Okay.
in New York.
Okay. All right. So do you have any receipts for these items?
I don't have my receipts because, the stuff obviously I've worn before. So, I don't have receipts for the items. I just have I listed the price.
Well,
of
if you
what I
used a
paid
credit
for.
card, you could obtain that by doing a little research to prove to me that you owned the items that you're saying. You could do that. Okay, Ms. Ellie, what's going on?
So there are 18 beds at this hostel, and I have 40 individual lockers. Any clothing could be taken out of a bag and tuckily placed in these lockers.
Okay, hold on one second. Let's say I need 5 lockers, can I rent 5 lockers?
Sure, it's first come, first serve, and
Okay.
there's definitely around 20 that are available right now.
Okay, So there was nothing stopping him from putting his stuff in the lockers, even if they're smaller, you're saying?
That's right. You could just take the clothing out and place them folded into the lockers. The second thing is Mr. Owens, checked in on January 31st and stayed for 21 consecutive nights. He was there every single night. And he didn't make that 21-night reservation all in one bulk. He actually extended every week. So if he disliked it or felt unsafe, why did he extend weekly? Then he checks out for 8 days. And then he comes back and stays for another 17 nights from 228 to 317. So why stay so many times if you dislike it? And to your point, he didn't tell us anything during the stay. 0 complaints from the text messages, phone lines, or front desk. Never said anything was absolutely wrong. The first time we even hear about anything happening was on March 13th. Once again, he was supposed to check out on the 17th, but on March 13th, he said he wanted a refund for the 15th and 16th, his last 2 nights. And when we said you're not eligible for a refund due to the cancellation policy, then he started talking about a bag that he left behind with sauces. And in my evidence, I have the bag with the sauces. And in fact, it's still at the hostel right now, because in the text messages, Anthony said, I'll be there tomorrow, never showed up, then sent another text message 4 days later, said, I'll be there on Wednesday, never showed up. And I still have this bag with his items just sitting there waiting for him to pick up. He never made an effort to come and grab it. And regarding the clothing, he never said anything was missing during the time of his stay until this refund question got brought up.
Plaintiff says he rented a bed in a youth hostel in L.A., and all his stuff was stolen, and the defendant is to blame. But the defendant claims she provided lockers for the residents and is not responsible for theft. Let's listen.
Every day I was bringing stuff back and forth. I didn't, and she's saying that you could.
Why didn't you just put your stuff in the lockers?
Because they weren't available, Your Honor. They were not available, ma'am. Like, there are other people there, and all the lockers were taken.
How many people are there? How many beds?
There's like 18 to 20
How many
people.
lockers are there, Ms. Owens? I'm sorry. How many lockers are there, Ms. Ellie?
40.
40. So you could put your stuff in there.
You're talking about I'm talking about downtown.
Downtown.
Yes. I have pictures in my evidence of 40
Let's see
lockers.
the pictures in your evidence.
And they were all taken. Every locker was taken. Yeah, and my locker was right there.
Can you prove that every locker was taken and that's why? Did you ever complain and say, hey, I really need to secure my stuff? What do you expect them to do? You want them to put cameras where people are sleeping? Because they're not going to do that. They don't have a right to.
They do have cameras where we sleep. There is cameras.
Are there cameras where they sleep, Ms. Ellie?
No, it's in the lobby, and it's facing the lockers and the front desk.
All right, so they don't. And now, but you tell me, what is it they didn't, what does she do? You think she stole your stuff?
I'm not
right.
Judge. I'm not
So what you're saying is you did not provide the level of security.
Exactly.
What level of security? What is it you feel they should do that they didn't do?
They have someone at the desk.
Yeah.
They have someone at the desk who is supposed to, I guess,
leave the desk and keep an eyeball on your bag that you didn't put in a locker?
Well, they're at the front where if anybody is going in and out, they can see.
What about the people who were in the bed? The other 18 people? How do you know they didn't steal it?
Exactly.
Right, exactly. So what is the person at the front desk supposed to do? Turn around. No. See, the person who is responsible is you, Mr. Owens, if in fact there's stuff missing, because there are lockers and I presume there's turnover every day too, right, Ms. Ellie? So the idea
but the lockers
that
couldn't
you
fit all my things.
Then Mr. Owens have fewer things. I'm not even sure that stuff is missing. Typically, when stuff is missing and you're leaving the hostel, you would notice that the stuff was missing and say it right then. You don't say stuff is missing. Stop talking over me. So you don't say to anyone that stuff is missing until you have moved out. And according to you, did he say it all at once about the sauces and the stuff missing? Ms. Ellie?
So he writes on the so he checks out on the 7th. Well, he checks out earlier, right? He's supposed to check on the 17th, but he checks out on the 15th. He doesn't. But he doesn't text about the sauces, which I still have, and the clothes until the 21st.
Oh, it's a whole week
No.
later. All right. In
Check
any
your
event,
text. It's on the text.
No, it's not the 21st.
Yeah.
I text them immediately. Judge, you have my text messages.
March 21st, you text, I left some food there and some of my clothes are missing. If you left on the 15th, why in God's name would it take you from the 15th to the 21st?
I didn't leave on the 15th because, Your Honor.
What day did you leave?
I left on the, I don't even have that date, but I know when I go to
I
court
do.
for it,
Just
I'll
a
have
second.
it.
I have the date. It's March 13th that you text, and you say on March 13th, I'm leaving Tuesday, which would be March 16th. So your last day would be the 15th. And they answer you, that's fine, but we can't give you a refund because you're cutting it too close. So that is the day you left. Anything else we want to clarify?
Welcome back to the People's Court. I'm Harvey Levin. The plaintiff says all of his designer clothes were stolen at a share room youth hostel and says the defendant is responsible. But the defendant claims the plaintiff is an opportunist looking to make some money, and she thinks the judge will agree. Let's find out.
Ms. Ellie, can I ask you a question? How did you get into this business? I'm kind of interested.
10 years ago, I started because I too were housing insecure. And I thought, well, if we could live like MTV Real World, just a bunch of diverse casts living under one roof across the most expensive neighborhoods in Los Angeles in the world, then, we can all afford to live in those places.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 37.
Oh my gosh, honestly, you look 21. All right. Do you have any disclaimers on the walls about anything and at your own risk and all that stuff?
We have the terms of use that everybody signs, and nobody's allowed into the space without signing our terms of use. So the front desk does.
And where's your terms of use? Did you provide that in evidence?
Yeah, it's the second page. So you'll see Mr. Owens' ID, his signature, and then the terms of use. I've highlighted the portions where the hostel is not responsible for personal items, not liable, and you stay at your own risk.
Okay, so upon check-in, signed our terms of use. That's the sentence I was looking for. So you have the terms of use and you have his signature acknowledging that he understands the terms of use. And right in the terms of use, it says everything is at your own risk. We are done. Verdict in this case for the defendant.
That's not my signature. I'll see her in the other court, though. Trust me. She's a community leader. She calls herself a community leader. That place is a hole in the wall.
So the plaintiff fails to prove his case. He's a little angry right now. Mr. Owens, I got news for you. You just saw her in court and you lost your case. What are you thinking?
That document she has, that's pieced together. That lady.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
A lot of illegal stuff going on in that place. A lot of.
You're just upset because you lost and you can't stand
No.
it. And unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Doug Llewellyn.
Okay?
I love you, Doug Llewellyn.
All right, Ellie, let me ask you, do you get sued very often? I mean, you have a pretty ironclad agreement there that you're not responsible for anything, right? I mean, anybody's belongings, right?
I think it's pretty common sense that when you go into an open floor plan, and we do offer lockers, people could bring their own locks. No, I don't get sued often at all. This was a major shock to me.
Yeah, well, listen, you proved your case. Congratulations. You did everything you could, and you did it right, and you have prevailed. So you're not on the hook for his $1,000. That'll wrap it up for this case. Very interesting indeed. All right. Harvey, what do you think about this?
So in this case, the plaintiff signed a waiver basically saying if something's stolen from the lockers, the defendant's not responsible. That is enforceable. And I got to tell you, these waivers are all over the place. They're often in car washes, sometimes in parking lots, many times in parking lots where you valet your car. So you really should know exactly what rights you're waiving, and that usually means don't leave expensive stuff where you have no legal recourse.
Marilyn, where were you on 9/11?
In the makeup chair.
Makeup chair where?
In New York. At the time, we had our studio in New York, and I was 7.5 months pregnant with Sophia, our youngest.
That's right.
And
That's when the show was being taped in New York.
Correct. And the first plane hit. They interrupted the Today Show for the local coverage of it, and then the second plane hit, and then everyone realized this was terrorism. And I called you. You were in trial in Miami.
That's right. I was in a jury trial.
And you were walking up the courthouse steps, and you're like, hurry up, I'm late for court. And I'm like, I just want you to know I'm okay. And you're like, Yeah, okay. I go, no, do you know what's happening? And you didn't know. I'm the one who told you.
Right.
And I said, the cell phone towers are all going to, this is going to be a mess. I just want you to know I'm okay.
Right. I remember that in the jury trial that I was in, the judge kind of asked me and the defense attorney, how do you feel about proceeding? A plane hit one of the towers in New York. I said, I'm fine, Judge. Let's go forward. The jury was there. We'd already seated a jury, and they sworn him in. And the defense attorney said, sure. I said, we'll go. Let's just go.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, you weren't let out. And then, right.
And
but then he still didn't let you. He's a friend of ours.
He's a good friend of ours.
He still didn't let you out. This was years ago.
This federal judge.
Obviously, he still didn't let you out until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm trying to reach you.
What happened was
the marshals dragged you out.
Deputy U.S. Marshals came in and kind of whispered in his ear and said, Judge, you have to come with us.
You have to evacuate this federal building. That's right.
Wow. You don't forget a day like that.
No.